for the current NPP administration, but as rightly admitted, you bear some collective responsibility for the outcomes of government's efforts, either successes or failures.
Mr. Vice President, can you state 2 failures of your current administration which you seek to correct, and how do you intend to do this differently should you become the president? Thank you.
Thank you. Central Region.
Your Excellency, my name is Kofi Kunedu from ATLFM UCC Cape Coast. I guess Cape Coast Airport promise in 2020 is part of the 20% unfulfilled. Fast forward, you have aligned in your 2024 manifesto. It means it is there in your heart. What is the overriding consideration of having an airport in Cape Coast and, for that matter, Central Region? Thank you.
Please, let me hear from Larry Dugbe. Please give the microphone to Larry. And then afterwards, we'll come to Ashanti Region, Mr. Kwame Adinkra. Let's take a few more. Give the microphone to Mr. Kwame Adinkra. His hand has been up for a bit now. Please. I see a lot of hands. We'll take as many as we can. Please be very crisp with the questions.
Okay. Your Excellency, I want an assurance. I recall the President's first 100 days in office, I drew his attention to a vision of President John Ajikun Kufuor to the effect that he will fix the inner ring road of Kumasi to restore the Garden City glory. In fact, we saw the Asukwa interchange, the overhead constructed. We saw improvement in the Sofolai interchange. Now we have seen major constructions at the Swami interchange. But we are left with Santasi runabout interchange, Ahonjo runabout interchange, Alaga Junction interchange, and airport runabout interchange to fully complete the inner ring road of the Garden City. I want assurance from you to the people of Kumasi, whether indeed in your reign as the President of the Republic, you will fully complete the inner ring road of the Garden City. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see Andy. Please give the microphone to Andy and Larry. They must ask questions. Please hand the microphone over to Andy and Larry, wherever they are. I see them here, I see them here. Yes, hello. Please hand the microphone over to them. Thank you. Andy, please join your brother. Please come forward. Go ahead.
Mr. Vice President, I'm from Akachi in the Volta region. Andy is from Jachi, somewhere in Kumasi. So we can't be we can't be brothers. But by the way, these days it's very difficult to hear the MPP talking about the fight against corruption. I don't know whether that has been captured in the manifesto. If it has, can you throw a little light on it for us, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You've been touted as one with integrity. And we know integrity is anchored on trust. On your campaign tour, you're making promises. In some instances, a renewal of those you've made in the past. Thankfully, you've been reminded of one you made in 2016 to relieve Ghanaians of the suffering. 7 years down the line, there is still suffering. This time around, excruciating hardship. You are appealing to Ghanaians to promote you to the higher office of the land. Respectfully, respectfully, do you think you should be trusted with a mandate that you are, or you have what it takes to relieve Ghanaians of what they are going through? Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. So basically the question is that between Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and former President Mahama, who should the Ghanaian voter trust? He would respond to it. Please give the microphone to Nana Okatechi Afrifa. Okay, it's with Evans. So let Evans come then. Okatechi will come then. Uncle Ebokwansa will come.
Okay. My name is Evans Benson. I work with Joy News. On page 29 of your manifesto, you promise to protect Ghanaian cultural values. My question to you is, as president, will you sign the promotion of Ghanaian sexual rights and family values bill?
Thank you. Okatechi, I think we've taken more than the 6 at this point. Uncle Ebokwansa, please let us hear from Okatechi if I then come to Uncle Ebokwansa.
Good evening, Your Excellency. As usual, I would like to ask my question in Twi. Saying how Janansi as would in the Ajama Pambo, Timebusani Twi. Your Excellency, a year na me free a year as an Gregor and an important mo ever. Na McCoy with Madame for no see a morning show of a Kesman. Kwame Apiakubi. A Kodro Honor Niamana Elkoso Nibi, Your Excellency, it is heart wrenching. Saminoka say, Tanonsio Idaho, Esitobre, Metimiagina, the middle of the tunnel insio Namanantiso, Domine Yesu Christo. That is how bad the destruction of our waters have become. We have to turn ourselves into citizen vigilantes to arrest some Chinese people and send them to the police station on this matter. Besides that, Achimota Forest, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources said, year in, year out, a certain Owu family, Ayajia free on 1927, Yanchia Omoka, and Omodibi Koma Owu family, no. Your Excellency, where there any question? A chopper. A chimota forest here, the old family bika. A binding chia old family nika. Na forest no and na ho. Nemo years you your forest. Said ye yes see no in our quest to benefit from the natural resource of this country. I don't think we can continue like that as a nation. At the end now won't obey. Sebeya, Yeshua, Yaseno, Abedri, you bet me a reclaiming, nay, bet me a body down over Amanda Chinchima. Thank you.
Please let's take Uncle Ebokwansa so we can, because I think that we've taken almost 9 or so questions. Uncle Ebokwansa, we do Sadik from NTV, and then we will take the answers. Thank you. Please.
Mr. Vice President and incoming President. About 3 years ago, I attended your lecture at Bekuso. When I came back, my feature was simple. The headline was simple. Ebokwansa attends lecture and encounters the next president. Some of us are already convinced that you are going to be the president of Ghana. But some people out there are campaigning that you are a liar. All over the rural areas, when you go and you talk about your achievement and what you intend doing, the old folks will say, but the people came here and said you are a liar. Now you are telling us that you are, you represent the future. Please, how do you convince my elder sister in my village, Kumfie Krofo, that you should get up, an 82-year-old lady, that you should get up, drag herself and go and vote for a man who is for the future? I just want you to tell the people of Ghana who you are, why you want to be president of this republic. Thank you.
Thank you. Sadek, NTV, and then His Excellency would now give the answers. From Sadek. From Northern TV.
Yes. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, Tamale is one of the fastest growing cities in West Africa. Over the years, we've had perennial water challenge. Your government cancelled for the Tamale Water Project in 2020, same for Yendi and Savannah region. Your Excellency, as President of the Republic, what will be your solution to address this perennial water challenge? And what is the update on the Tamale Water Project? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. If you can take the questions and give the answers. But please let me quickly add this. As we report, kindly let's report fairly. If you are going to report that the Vice President said, if he does everything now, what would he do when he becomes president? Please add the laughing emoji and then complete the statement, because that's exactly what he said. TV3, kindly correct the reportage on Facebook. Thank you. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. I think the question started with the seeds. I think the seed industry appears to be collapsing, and we need to revamp the local seed industry. I couldn't really agree more with the whole premise of that. If that is the case, we definitely will need to revamp the local seed industry, because without the seeds, we have a real problem in terms of cultivation of various crops. So we'll have to look at that. The question, what failures that you think in this government that you would see to correct? I was thinking a little bit about that. I don't know if I mean, for one, I think that I wish we had built in, for example, we had started the gold purchase program much earlier. If we had started it in our first term of office, for example, the buffer in terms of gold reserves would have been much bigger. As I said, a few years ago, we had 8.7 tons of gold, and I think so far we are almost they bought close to about 72 tons or so. So it's very, something that I wish, when I sit back and look and I say, wow, I wish we had been able to buy a bit more and start gold for oil and gold for reserves much earlier. But as I said, the crisis is what really made us to get into these policies. Of course, I also wish that we had, even though we built more school infrastructure than any government, I believe that we've still had challenges with the senior high school in terms of infrastructure. And I wish we had completed a bit more in terms of the accommodation, dining hall, and so on. But this is one of the reasons why I want us to move a lot of the government expenditure away from government to the private sector. This is a major policy that we are coming up with, that we want to engage the private sector in a lot of expenditure that government normally will put on the budget. And a lot of infrastructure is part of what government puts on the budget. In places like roads, and you tend to see a lot of uncompleted buildings. But if you go to places like Legon or Tech, most of the accommodation, the hostels, is provided by the private sector. And all we do is rent it and pay. And I believe that we can have that model where the private sector is engaged to build a lot of infrastructure, and will pay them rent or lease it or whatever over time. So I believe that will give a lot of fiscal space, but also allow us to complete all of these buildings and so on. But this is where I want to take Ghana in the next session, that we should move more towards the private sector provision of a lot of this, and that will really bring down the fiscal burden on government in providing some of these. The Cape Coast Airport, what is the overriding consideration? Well, I think that if you look at tourism, it's got to be one of the big considerations for Cape Coast. And that could provide us, of course, some people say, well, you are also expanding the road, but that is fine. But if some people want to fly directly to Cape Coast, I think they will have that opportunity to do so. Parents, it's an educational hub, and so on, from Tamale can come straight to Cape Coast, and other things. So I think that, you know, there is a rationale that the location will really be between Cape Coast and Takoradi because of land space issues. But I think there's justification for that. Inner Ring Road for Kumasi, Santasi, and Hojo, and airport interchanges. Napo, I'll leave you to handle that portfolio. And it will be your responsibility to make sure. So I'll tell the Kumasi people to hold you if it's not done. I think that the issue that has been raised, I think, I don't know if it was Andy or Larry who raised it, that corruption, that we've not talked about corruption in the manifesto. In fact, we have, and I did make the point when I delivered my speech at the manifesto launch, that, you know, for me, the way we have looked at fighting corruption, you know, we're looking at, as I said during the manifesto launch, you know, we have killed people for corruption, we've jailed people, we've passed several laws, you know. In fact, since we have been in office, you know, we have passed many laws. We've passed the Right to Information Act, that basically brings more transparency. The Witness Protection Act, we've passed. The Criminal Offense Amendment Act 2020 was also passed. The Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020. They also increased budgetary allocations to the Audit Service, to SHRAJ, NCCE. We also set up the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So all of these things are, you know, policies that we've implemented. But I make the point that when it comes to corruption, I believe that we should stop corruption ex ante. That is, before it happens, rather than deal with it ex post, after it happens. That we should look at, and this is why I believe that digitalization holds the key to dealing with corruption. And why do I say so? When I look at the impact of the Ghana card on the public sector payroll, it gives me a lot of confidence that we're on the right path to deal with corruption ex ante. The Ghana card provides unique identity backed by fingerprints for every just because of the Ghana card. And that saved SNIT almost 400 million Ghana cedis from the 29,000. National Service Secretariat found 44,000 goes to service personnel, savings of over 350 million. And using digitalization in the Ghana card, we've been able to eliminate all ghost workers on the control
and Accountant General, payroll. And that is a major advancement in the fight against corruption, because these are things that have been there for a very, very long time, but digitalization is helping us to deal with it. And when you come to the area of the tax, domestic revenue mobilization and people's compliance with tax laws and all of that, when we came into office, only 4% of the, adult population of Ghana had tax identification numbers. Only 4% had tax identification numbers. So we made the decision. I said, look, why don't you make the Ghana card number the tax identification number? Suddenly, once we did that, suddenly 85% of adults in Ghana suddenly have tax identification numbers. So we can tell going forward who has filed, who hasn't filed, where they live, and so on. We tackled corruption, passport office with digitalization. And since we digitalized operations at the passport office, revenues have gone up almost ninefold at the passport office. Ninefold. Same with DVLA, digitalizing DVLA. We've seen significant increase in revenue. When we digitalize ECG, and ECG no longer collects cash for payment of electricity, you've seen revenue collections go up from 450 million Ghana cedis to 1.2 billion Ghana cedis, just by digitalization. You are looking at paperless ports and the way clearing goods at the ports have gone so far. Everybody can attest that you have been able to see a reduction in corruption. The Ghana.gov platform that we have implemented, by the way, you almost about 99% of all MMDAs are on the Ghana.gov platform. And that means that payments to government and are largely not leaking. The Ghana.gov is collecting about 200 billion Ghana cedis on the platform a year. And a lot of this would have normally gone through cash, and then we would have had leakages. What we want to do moving forward with fighting corruption is my proposal in the manifesto, that our government must become a blockchain government. A blockchain government, which means that we operate on the basis that all transactions that you do within the government space are locked in, cannot be changed, are traceable, even if it is 100 years, they are all traceable. So you cannot go and change any things within the government space. And that is where we need to go. So far, UAE wants to be the world's first blockchain government. They are on course. Ghana wants to be the world's second blockchain government. With that, I think once everything is transparent in all your transactions, there should be a deterrence for corruption in this context. So I want us to move into blockchain, and it will also be done. Just like Estonia, I also want all our databases to be interoperable. And that is work that is going on now. And I believe that either later this year or next year, we will have across all of the government space, all data between one institution and the other will be interoperable, so that we'll see and there will be more transparency. In addition, I have made the statement that I want us to enact a Corrupt Practices Act to consolidate all the anti-corruption related legislation and offenses that are currently scattered across several pieces of legislation, so that we have an omnibus body of provisions offering anti-corruption institutions a harmonized reference point to draw their mandate. I also want us to continue the process of restructuring the public sector and internal audit function. I want us to review Article 286 of the Constitution and the relevant legislation on assets and liabilities declaration. I want to expand the asset declarations by public office holders to include, among others, senior staff and heads of regulatory and public institutions which were not previously covered. And I also want to require that asset declarations be made or updated every 2 years instead of every 4 years. I want to place limits on foreign official travel by ministers, CEOs, and civil servants, as well as annually publish official travels undertaken, and also annually publish the list of all beneficiaries of public scholarships. So that is one area in terms of the corruption fight that is in the manifesto. Maybe it must have skipped some people, but it is there. I think it is Andy who was asking the question that, you know, all the promises are about integrity and trust, and the fact that real hardships exist, and how would people trust that I will be able to work on the hardships. I think that, you know, the issue has to really be about what have you done? I mean, what is your track record on these issues of social intervention, right? What have we done to relieve hardships? I think, frankly, the MPP, whether it's President Kufuor's government or President Akufo-Addo's government, has a solid record when it comes to social interventions to deal with hardships. The record is very, very solid, whether you're talking in education with capitation grants, or the increase in payments to persons with disabilities, which went up by 50%, or free SHS, or free TVET, or increased absorption of BC and WACC examination fees, and so on. The free water during COVID and all of that. The social interventions are very, very massive, actually. The issue with my opponent, who is a former president, is that he cannot point to one social intervention, one, that he can point to, that this is how I, notwithstanding all that has gone on, when I was president, I was able to do this to relieve the suffering of our people. There's just not one. You know, there's no one social intervention. So that is the issue. I believe that if you look at our promises, as I said, the 2016 manifesto, we've done about 83%, and 80% of the 2020 manifesto fulfilling or fulfilled about 80%. So we have more credibility. And I think the people of Ghana can trust us. When it comes to dealing with hardships, we are always front and center, whether it's providing free dialysis or sickle cell or childhood cancer. We're always thinking about it. And for me personally, you know, I always worry about the poor and the vulnerable. And this is why I am a patron, for example, of the Lepers Aid Ghana, and also for the Mother Teresa's Soup Kitchen in Accra. I'm also a patron there because I want to help people who are vulnerable, and that's where my heart really is. So I think we can do a whole. Then you have, I think it's Evans, who are protecting Ghanaian cultural values and so on. I think that is very, very important. He he asked whether the bill, when it comes, I will sign it. I mean, the bill is before the Supreme Court right now, and I think once the Supreme Court brings it, I think there are certain challenges that have been made to it to say that it is not consistent with the Constitution or whatever. But of course, we will wait for it to come, and once it's out of the Supreme Court and they declare it as constitutional, I believe that the signing is automatic. There shouldn't be any issue. No ifs and no buts. Bawumia. I think that there is the issue of protecting our water bodies, and I think that first of all, restoration of our forests. You know, we've undertaken to target about 30,000 hectares of degraded areas for reforestation and plantation, and also establishing 1,000-hectare bamboo and rattan plantations annually for watershed protection, and also providing tree seedlings and plantain stackers in the National Reforestation and Plantation Program. I've also talked about small-scale mining and how we want to reduce the practice of galamsey indiscriminate digging by using data from the Geological Survey Department to direct the miners into particular community mining schemes, and sort of using mercury-free gold catcher machine technology to help them extract the gold without destroying the water bodies. We also want to preserve our water resources by vigorously protecting both the surface and underground sources by enforcing the provisions of the water use regulations, and protecting transborder water sources of the Volta River in particular. We need to effectively manage all these water basins. I think it's very, very important that we do so. I think that I don't know if it was Ebokwansa who was asking the question.
He's addressed it. What exactly about
Achimota Forest? Yeah, he talked about the Owu family, that they should. He's saying that, you know, whatever we can do to pay off the Owu family and preserve the forest, we should do. I'm inclined to agree with you on that.
It was a suggestion.
Yes, it was a suggestion, yeah.
Yes, it wasn't a question.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
It was a suggestion that if we can preserve the forest without getting it chopped down and all of that, I think makes...
Thank you, Excellency. Umaru Sanders,
yeah,
about the Fulani discrimination, yeah, and also the issue of you speaking only on digitalization and no longer in the economy.
Yeah, I think we're coming to that. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Let me take Sanders' question. I wrote it, but I can't seem to see it. But I mean, the issue of my in-laws. My in-laws feeling discriminated against. I will take very strong exception to that. As president, and even as vice president, I don't think I want to see my in-laws discriminated against. So Marusanda, tell them that we are going to fight with them to make sure that discrimination doesn't take place. Then also, you talked about digitalization, my focus on digitalization, and that the people think that I've run away from economics, and economics has gone over me, and so I've gone to digitalization. I think digitalization has gone over them. you know. They have no, it's very strange, you know, that the people cannot see the nexus between digitalization and the economy. And it just doesn't make sense. You know, when I spent a year at Oxford University in 2009 as a researcher in the economics department, I wrote a book on monetary policy and financial sector reform. And I made a point in the book, this was in 2010, this is 14 years ago, before I became vice president. I made the point that Africa needs to go digital because the global economy is going digital. And if countries stay behind, they will miss out on the fourth industrial revolution as we missed out on the other revolutions. And there's a good reason, because the digitalization allows us to formalize our economy. Informal economies are very difficult to manage. And so if you want systematic, you know, management of an economy based on data and based on systems, the fourth industrial revolution is a data-based revolution. You know, if you have an economy that doesn't have data and systems, you can't do much. Your end when a child is born in Ghana, right, at the point of way in, they give the child a Ghana card ID as well as a birth certificate ID. We are the first country in Africa to get this done. You are getting these two IDs. So, and in not long, you are going to see NIA is going to go to all the schools and issue all the children with Ghana card IDs. So we will have a complete database, you know, and they've done the pilot, so I expect them to start before the end of this year. You'll have a complete database of the whole country. Everybody is accounted for. If a child is not in school, you will know, because they will not be in the school database, but they would have been born. You know, you can only manage an economy when you have the data on the people, you know, properly. So I think that the digitalization allows us to do so. From independence to 2016, only 4% of our people had tax identification numbers. Only 4%. But by making the Ghana card ID, that we've been able to solve that problem, and therefore we have 85% in there. How do we get everybody with a bank account? You go through mobile money interoperability. You get the digital framework working. And then suddenly Ghana is the #1 country in terms of financial inclusion. We've been working at this matter since independence. But Ghana is 100% access to financial inclusion. The only country in Africa with 100% access to financial inclusion. We've been, I mean, this is economics. When you talk about financial inclusion, you're talking about economics. Look at the savings that people are making, just staying at home and paying their electricity bill, or renewing their national health insurance, or buying something on the internet or whatever. Just, you know, you're expanding economic possibilities when you move in this direction and so on. So when you are talking about moving away from economics, no, in fact, any economy which doesn't digitalize will be left behind. And so I believe right now, what we are doing right now in Ghana, we are really at the forefront of the digital economy in Africa. We are at the forefront of the digital economy. What we are doing right now, many countries are not able to do. Many countries will take a much longer time to do. I was telling somebody, even in the UK, they don't have digital ID cards. Tony Blair was proposing to Steinmeier that they should move to issue digital IDs. They don't have digital IDs in the United States. They are now talking about doing digital identity in the United States. The EU has asked all their countries to make sure they issue digital IDs by 2030. You know, how do you manage an economy without address systems, addresses? If you go to the UK, US, Canada, and you collapse their address system today, those economies will collapse just because they don't have addresses. We had to address that problem. For 60 years of independence, we didn't have a solution. We were going piecemeal. But by just bringing in the Ghana Post GPS and moving to a digital property address system, Ghana solved that problem just like that. You know, and that has economic repercussions. You know, you look at Ghana.gov, all these people on one platform, look at the efficiency and so many problems that we've lived with since independence. So many problems since independence. We have been able to solve them because of digitalization. And this is now going to give us the foundation to really grow jobs and the businesses in this country. That is where we are going. So people who don't understand digitalization need to, you know, think through some of these things. This is where the world is going. And I am just, you know, at the forefront in terms of policy of moving this in this country. And that is why some people don't understand. You know, and then I think Ebukwansa was talking about people calling me a liar. And then you go, you know, and that is I said to someone, well, at least I'm not called a murderer as my boss was called, or I'm not called a drug dealer, or even I'm not called government official one. You know, but why do these things arise? Fundamentally, I believe that Ghana can do exactly what is happening in the developed world, in the advanced countries. I believe it is possible for us to leapfrog technology. And for us to do this, we must have this mindset of possibilities. That's why I'm saying it is possible. We are always, you know, timid in trying to do things that are not even done in the advanced countries. We think because it's not been done in the advanced countries, we shouldn't even try. But we can leapfrog them in many areas. So, but if you have an impossibility mindset, which seems to have been pervasive in the NDC mindset, everything you want to do, they say it's not possible. But if you have that, your development is limited. Other countries are going to Mars. Why would you think earthly things are not possible? But many of the things that I'm trying to do in the policy space are a little futuristic in nature. Many people don't seem to usually understand them at the time when I start talking about them. They immediately come and say, oh, well, he's lying. You remember when I talked about drones coming into Ghana? What did they say? That I was lying, that the drones are coming to take pictures of naked women in their bathrooms. I mean, that was the response about drones. And when I said Ghana was the world's largest medical drone delivery service, they said, he's lying, it's not true. When we talked about digital property address system, they said he was lying. You know, this is not this thing when I said that mobile money interoperability, Ghana was the first in Africa to do mobile money interoperability between bank accounts and the Momo account that we have done. They said I was lying, and then, but usually after they say I'm lying, when I'm proven right, they don't come back to say I was right. When I said that you could use the Ghana card to travel from outside Ghana into Ghana, they said I was lying. Today, people are using it and traveling very easily. When I said we're going to build hostels for Kayaye, they said I was lying. And then we've built the hostels, they've not said anything. When I said we will restore teacher training allowances, they said I was lying. When I talked about the rent advance loans so that people will not have to pay rent advance through the National Rental Assistance Scheme, they said I was lying. Free SHS, when we talked about it, they said it was 419. Agenda 111, when I mooted this idea about Agenda 111 and we announced it, they said it was a lie, it was not feasible. The digital, the Zongo Development Fund similarly, and when I talked about credit scoring, was not in existence. It wasn't seen as true, So there's a pattern that is going on, but I have to thank Joy FM. In June 2023, Joy FM did a report together with the African Academy for Open Source Investigations, and that report revealed that the coordinated sharing of that hashtag Bawumia tweets by 28 accounts using copy and paste technique in an inorganic creature created by the opposition NDC to smear me. This was the finding of Joy FM, not me, that they had created these fake accounts and sharing Bawumia tweets, and they had said that this was a deliberate attempt by the NDC to smear me. So I take it as par for the course. I have a solid record of accomplishment as Vice President. Very solid. I have, at least I can point to 33 separate policy initiatives. 33 that I have championed or initiated as Vice President. 33. My opponent cannot point to one. One, just one. Bakope. Just one. One single policy initiative as a Vice President. One. He can't. I mean, if you are serious about solving the problems of this country, at least you must think of something. You must think of something. You cannot just be eating and going to sleep every day. You must think of something. You must be policy oriented. I mean, we are put into public office to solve problems. You cannot be there as MP, as minister, as vice president, as president, and you don't have a policy initiative. Just one. I mean, you need your leaders to be problem solvers. So you must have thought through problems and come up with initiatives to solve the problems. I can talk about 33 different policy initiatives. My opponent cannot talk of one, and he wants to be given the mandate.
Question about the Zongo Development Fund. We just wrap up. We'll take the Zongo Development Fund question, then we'll take a question from Bloomberg. Then I have also been called out the same way I called TV3, and let me add GH1 as well. Let's give fair reportage. It's fine. report as you want to report. But don't cut my statement when you know it's not complete. It's unfair. So please, that's what we are saying. We are not telling you what to report. We are only saying that if I make a full comment and you bring one part of it and report on it, you are deliberately setting me up for something to satisfy your own agenda. Please, let's be fair. GH1 has also done the same. I think it's fair that we correct it. But I have been called out also by Ebenezer Donko. Eben, I can't see you. Please, give the microphone to Ebenezer Donko. Your Excellency, whilst you take a breather, and then we come back to it. We are taking three. So please,
let me address the Zongo Development Fund. I think that what is clear is that Zongo development wasn't a real issue. The Zongos, for the most part, had been used as political fodder by politicians. And we didn't really have a vehicle for Zongo and inner city development. And this is the genesis of the setting up of the Zongo Development Fund. And we are looking at setting this fund up. And this fund has done tremendous work. We've had over 200 completed projects in various areas like education, health, infrastructure, vocational training, entrepreneurial support, sports, and so on. We've done over 70 new classroom blocks are being constructed. 45 have been completed and commissioned in various Zongos. We've constructed over 30 ICT and community libraries in Zongo communities, and we've renovated and provided, we've renovated various schools and provided dual desks to several. Over 5,000 dual desks have been provided, and we've provided tertiary education grants to over 1,000 students. And we've given scholarships to 40 brilliant but needy students from Zongo communities to study medicine in Cuba. And we've donated about 50,000 textbooks to be distributed across the country. Over 1,000 youth from Zongos across the country have been trained and supported in various vocational skills, soap making, beads making, hairdressing, and so on. And then we've also seen a number of chip compounds constructed and some health facilities in Zongo communities. Also, drainage systems have been constructed, and the provision of places of sanitation facilities have also been done. So if you look at sports, we've also done astroturfs in Zongo communities. 17 have been completed, and we've done 100 mechanical water systems in many Zongos across the country. And street lighting as well. So what you are seeing is a major investment that has taken place in the Zongo communities, and you can point to specific things across the various communities and what the Zongo Development Fund has done. They've done an excellent job across the country. They've done an excellent job.
Your Excellency, kindly take a seat. We'll take just one last round. I know there are a lot of questions, but we are unable to take everybody's question. But because Ebenezer Donko has called me out publicly, let me take him. So please give the microphone to... Let me please hold on. So we'll take Northeast. We'll take Northeast. Please, hang on. We'll take Northeast. We'll take... Bono region, round from the Bono area. We'll take between Volta and Oti, we'll take Oti. Then, so that's 3. We'll take Bloomberg, we'll take Ebenezer Donko, Natalie Ford, and then I see Stephen Zuri. Then finally, Geba will wrap up as a mother. So please let's use this order and then we can make progress. So for now, I see Bloomberg with the microphone.
All right. Thank you, Your Excellency, for the opportunity. your manifesto promises seem to fall outside the program parameters and targets of the IMF. And you add by saying you're going to scrap some taxes. Do you perceive that you'll be seeking to review any portion of the IMF program to accommodate some of these things you plan to do? And if yes, which areas are you looking at? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, give it to Eben. He's used communist inferior tactics in getting me to. Does he have the microphone? Okay. Go ahead. He's here. He's here. He's here. He's here. He's right here. Please give it to him. But then, Stephen, please. Stephen, ask your question. Okay. You have the microphone. Go ahead.
Yes.
Give the microphone to Eben, but let's hear Northeast. Whilst Eben get the microphone.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Salifu Mbadama Idrisu. Wale FM. Wale. Yatwala Mampole. Dr. Nituma. Njela Bosa Abatana. Abai Banyela Mampole Kayil Banya Strumentary. Abai ma Yinya Paraku Mwala Yatwala. Kabaya Mankia Mambo Siminya. Inyangan Dinasara. Nembia Popuna Kanya Ula Kanangi. Kamara Yang Mbia. Kampasa Abai ni itwa sukuru karanwa yatwa be sukuru yatwa ami babula babusinya inyanga di nama into mbe university tebagba ka kwa yan karanwa change tourni. My last one is a comment, please. Yesterday I was watching Joy News program entitled
Are you
News
asking
5.
Two questions? Why
No,
not
please,
you?
I beg you. This
We
one,
don't know what you said in the
first.
Please, Uncle. The first one was your question.
I beg you. I was watching a program yesterday on News 5, and one independent presidential aspirant used a lot of unprintable words on you. And I was so sad to understand that the host sees nothing wrong with that. And I want to find out from you, when you do hear some of these things, how do you feel, or how do you take it as a person, not a president? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Northeast. Eben, then voter. Can I see the voter hands? OT, you are asking for voter in OT. That's fair, right? Okay, Eben.
All right, thank you very much. So my name is Eben. I work with YFM Ghana. I came all the way from Kumasi, actually.
You're welcome.
And YFM Ghana has always been one of Ghana's biggest when you talk about media, especially with relations to the youth.
Please go to the question.
Now, the question is, I work in the creative arts industry. Most of the times, we get to see our celebrities or people in that industry only when it gets to elections. That's when politicians want to use them because they do know that they carry certain power and they can actually help communicate. Now, my challenge is that what do we have for the creative arts industry? So many things have been said. One of the things that they often look at is tourism, year of return, beyond the return, which everybody can attest to the fact that it's been successful. Now, what are we doing with our movies? What are we doing with our music, our internet? Because today, we can change the narrative and perception about Ghana with movies. But unfortunately, our movie industry is kind of on a decline. When you talk about actors and actresses, we get to hear of them when they're on their sick beds. There's nothing for them. Any kind of pension scheme, any kind of thing for them. What do we have for the creative arts industry? Since we hold a huge power to actually change the narratives of this country, and the creative arts industry also gets to employ thousands of people from tourism. Look at all the tourism sectors across the country. I remember speaking to one of the tourism sector ministers about...
Please wrap up, Eben.
Sure. You get to some part. So my question is that what do we have for the creative arts industry? It shouldn't just be what we say. What are practicable steps we have for the creative arts industry?
Thank you, Eben. Please give the microphone to OT region.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Baba Adam Sadiq. OT region, we all know, is an infant region with many problems as far as development is concerned. But one major problem that I would like to ask the Vice President, if Ghanaians give him the mandate to become the president, our number one problem is the bridge over River Oti. We all know that Oti is one of the food baskets in the country, and we also know that that road is an important road for motorists from the northern region coming down to the south and the vice versa. But the problem is government had promised the people of Oti, after we've been given the region, that a bridge will be constructed over River Oti. And since then, nothing has been done, or we've heard nothing. Now, when you are given the mandate to become the president, what will you do for the people of Oti?
Paul Adum Ochre. Then Yakunama will come, and then we are done.
Hello. Miracles, do I have the floor?
Yes, Paul.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Vice President and colleague journalists. I think we're having a very interesting time. Mr. Vice President, I covered the NPP presidential primaries in 1998. I covered election 2000. I covered the NDC contest for election 2004, the one between Mills and Kwesi Botwe. I covered election 2004, 2008, 12, 16, 20. I have never seen a presidential candidate, whether in opposition or in government, focusing his campaign to the people about policy initiatives and policies that have been achieved. I also covered the UK election in 2001 for Tony Blair, and I covered also the UK election in 2019. You will find in those places that they were always articulating policy, what can be done, what can be solved. You will find here, in all of those historical elections, that we were not doing that until Mahamudu Bawumia arrived on the scene. Mr. Vice President, whatever happens in December, you have changed the politics of Ghana and Africa for a long time to come. I have nothing more useful to add except that God bless you.
Thank you, Paul.
God bless you.
God bless you too. Yakunama. Yakunama. Please take the microphone to Upper East, Natalie Ford, and then Kasapa.
Thank God that finally grace located me for me to be called. Good evening, Your Excellency, and thanks for the opportunity. I go back to the manifesto. You proposed a number of new tax regimes. You talked about Ghana's ports being competitive to that of Togo. We know Togo is mainly duty-free. Is Ghana ports going to be duty-free? And if you do that, coupled with the number of taxes and levies you intend to abolish, then there will be shortfall in revenue, which we know that the budget we draw year by year is highly dependent on loans and donor support. So if there are shortfalls in revenue, how are you going to make up, and how will you fund all these lofty promises? Thank you.
Thank you, Yakurama. Upper East, please, and then Bono. Please, Upper East, go ahead. Straight to the question, please.
Good evening, Vice President. In 2019, you accompanied the President to Tanting, widely known as Talisi District, to cast salt for the construction of the Kolgo multipurpose dam. Years down the line, nothing has happened. I mean, nothing substantial has happened. What has been done is that $11.9 million have been paid. For some, for some, it is no work done. Now, I want to ask your understanding of what that money was used for, and if you think it is prudent use of the taxpayers' money. You've also said that you're going to ensure that it is constructed. We know in 2019, when the sword was cut, it was estimated to cost nearly $1 billion.
Please, your question.
Nearly $1 billion. Now it is 2024. It is not going to cost same. We know things have changed. What is the estimated cost now? And the last one.
No, you have only one question. Please give to Natalie Ford. Natalie Ford, then Kasapa.
Thank you. I'm Natalie Fort with the EIB Network.
Happy with the question.
GH1 TV and Star FM. Your Excellency, North Tong MP Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa is seeking to introduce a private member's bill to prevent legislators and government officials from buying state assets. In the event that you're sworn into office, is this a bill that you would assent to?
Okay, please give it to the Kasapa and then come to give the microphone to the Bono rep. Kasapa.
Mr. Vice President, me pacho me mowajo. Medin di Efia Pokia, Ago TV, Kasapa FM. Me pacho bosume ya shasiye ena wokan se nyame ya wadom na ubedi mampenya. I drive a 4 lines say ye 2 years. Sabio kafrache wunhu nyansa bi e wom nti de beko 10 years. Yen hwe yen petrol ya yeto e wo man mu nso a taxes ahodo bebre na gugu so spare parts ahodo a driver for yi ton so eya na eto akese na gugu so adentina wunyi yi taxes na gu petrol no so no ema ne mafom na fe so spare parts a ne boa ye den no so no duties ahodo adeda so want so ema omunya free and that's what I'm wom dance bia ye be ni 10 years because according to DVLA no one year checkups at the mom every year 2 years said they be ya on be nya nimdie ani suahunu wom adentina sa taxes in the gugu petrol so spare parts so ye nyim free ho dance ye de be 10 years me dance
question I as I am driver's license 10 years and I said yeah Bono region please. Bono region, please give the microphone to the Bono. Bono
is here.
Bono is okay.
Yeah.
And
my name is
Kwabena
Nika from Moonlight FM, Sunyani. Your Excellency, the last time you were in Sunyani, I presented your book to you, and I told you I'm still eagerly waiting to sit you down and do an academic discourse on it. I think those who introduced you into the Ghanaian politics didn't do you well by actually letting us know what you stand for as far as your economic wizkidship is concerned. So let's do this when next you come to Sunyani. But I bring you greetings from Sunyani, and my people say I should ask you, everything that every government begins in Sunyani stalls halfway. I've covered politics in Bono region for close to 3 decades, and in the past 16 years, we've stagnated, and the 2020 results as far as parliamentaryship is concerned.
Your question.
Attest to the question I'm asking. Now, please, I'm asking my question. Now, the question is, has Bono wronged governments? Is there any animosity between local governance and national government? Because our people are crying for you. You cut short for a major road which has stalled since you know. And
thank
so
you.
Have you wrong?
So thank you. Your question is well noted. Please, we're done. We're done. We
Thank you so
have just
much.
one last one from Stephen, and that's it. Nashoko,
Thank
please.
you so much. My name is Nash Shoko. In addition to being a journalist, I work in theater production. And I speak for the many of us in the performing arts who have come to realize the potential of theater to enhance job creation and employ a lot of young people. And yet, the state of the National Theatre of Ghana keeps deterring a lot of patrons from attending our performances. And this is a major concern for a lot of thousands, actually, of young people who rely on theater for their livelihood. So my question is, can we expect to see an urgent resolution of this problem, if possible before December 7th, or at the very least, during your first 100 days in office? Thank you so much.
Thank you. At this juncture, no, please. In the initial stage, Koju Sheldon was asking a question, did it end? I said, I'll call, please come. Bella, come, and then we're done. Thank you. So please, the two, and then we're done.
Thank
so please
you.
give the microphones to them.
Mr. Vice President, my name is Stephen Zuri. The Opposition National Democratic Congress. I am from mynewsgh.com. The Opposition National Democratic Congress claim you are making up being a taxi driver, a cleaner, and a laborer. Would you want to throw more light on these things? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm back again. So my question borders on musicians in this country. Now, I have seen what you have highlighted in your manifesto when it comes to people in the creative arts. Now, recently, people that I've seen come into the media space to complain about royalties they receive from Gamro. These artists, they come out, they complain about receiving 300 CDs, 200 CDs, 500 CDs. Someone has created about 32 albums, a collection of royalties on his behalf, him 300 CDs, 200 CDs, and 400 CDs. You see them come in the news complaining about these things, and it looks like Gamro has not been enabled to collect royalties when it comes to our artists. And in certain jurisdictions, artists can release one song and eat off it for the rest of their lives. We don't see that here. And I want you to let me know what you are going to do to help enable Gamro to be able to collect royalties effectively, so that our artists wouldn't retire, and us on social media will be doing GoFundMe and all these things for them. So that is Gamro. And the last one
thank
is,
you, Kojo.
Oh no, this side, this side.
Oh, who's that?
The last one is data issues in this country. I'm sure you have seen what Tech Kichi guys do on Twitter. We have all added our voice when it comes to how expensive data is in this country. Now, I create video. People always in the comment section complain about the fact that even the exorbitant amount are paying for, not getting value for their money. We have highlighted this on several platforms. We have been interviewed. We have met with the NCA. We have met with key people in positions of power, and nothing is being done about it. Your government, you have not said anything about it. For someone who is a digitalization and agenda, don't you think we need internet to champion some of these things that you are highlighting in your manifesto?
Thank you, Kojo.
Thank you again for the opportunity, and I'll make this very quick. So I was just checking Fact Check Ghana to be sure I was asking the right question, and Media Foundation for West Africa has also fact-checked and confirmed that 8 people died in the 2020 general elections. We haven't heard the president make a statement on it in terms of justice or anything for that matter. I'm not sure I've heard you make any statement on it as well. And I've spoken to a lot of analysts who say that if you had addressed this very early on in your campaign, maybe you'd have had a greater chance at the presidency than you might have now. If you become, and that's a conversation I've had, I just want to find out from you what you make of this, and if you will address this matter. And finally, would you agree with Ghanaians who say that you should apologize for where we are at the moment, especially looking at all the promises that were made and the performance not matching to those promises? Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this juncture, I think we would continue on another occasion. We'll take the last one from Geba, Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association. Where's the Geba rap, please?
Geba. Please give the microphone to Geba. Geba is your parent, oh. Don't do that. Let your parents speak. They will speak on behalf of Annie.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. In Ghana, as at the end of 2022, we had a significant 832 radio and TV stations, of which 707 are radio authorizations and 120 TV stations to service our population of 34 million. The free-to-air broadcasting model is an invaluable tool for governments, politicians, and citizens alike, and serves over 90% of our population. One significant industry hurdle is the financial sustainability of the media, which has hampered growth, and we've seen very low revenues due to the very competitive environment which has been created, leading to poor remuneration of media workers, journalists, and poor quality of broadcasting equipment and other issues. This situation further is exacerbated by a non-media friendly tax regime. The current high tax burden is challenging for most media houses and businesses, and the FTA media specifically have been facing pressure of the attempted introduction of an additional tax line, which is the CST, the Communication Service Tax, a consumer-designated tax as an additional tax for radio and TV stations that are doing the free-to-air service. Mr. Vice President, what is your position on using the taxation reliefs mentioned, reviews and innovation, tax reviews and innovations, such as the removal of CST for free-to-air broadcasters completely, and other tax incentives to enhance financial sustenance of our media landscape specifically, and enhance the remuneration of journalists and media practitioners, and enhance the ease of acquisition of new equipment, imports for media work, local content creation, technology upgrades, and improve operational costs for this special industry gathered here.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, you may give the answers now. Excellency, we are timing you at this point.
Okay, I'll try to keep it short. I think, yes, let's start. I think it started from Bloomberg. The targets of our fund program vis-a-vis my proposals, especially the scrapping of some taxes and so on. I don't see any inconsistency at all between what I am proposing and the fund program that we are engaged in. If you read my proposals very carefully, I start off by saying that we are going to bring down government expenditure by 3% of GDP. The proposals in terms of the tax cuts I'm proposing will not even come up to 0.5% of GDP. So, you have more than enough space to fund what I'm talking about. So I think that the issue at the end of the day for the program is to make sure we maintain fiscal sustainability. And you will see that in addition to reducing the government expenditure in favor of the private sector by 3% of GDP, I'm also proposing an amendment to the Fiscal Responsibility Act. First of all, to make the Fiscal Responsibility Council an independent Fiscal Responsibility Council, like the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank, that will have oversight of fiscal responsibility. The second amendment I'm proposing is that unlike the current Fiscal Responsibility Act, where we have expenditure not exceeding 105% because of the current revenue, I'm even proposing a tighter fiscal rule where expenditure will not exceed 105% of the previous year's tax revenue, so that you don't get into a situation where you are making optimistic revenue forecasts and then go ahead to do the expenditure which doesn't get realized. So we are looking at a more stringent fiscal regime to do this in addition to that. So I think that my the policies that I'm proposing are really very consistent with the fund program. I don't see any inconsistency at all. Wale FM was asking about the Pualugu Dam, and I think that it is something, and I think we had another question on it also. The Pualugu Dam is very important for agriculture in the north in general. It also is important for flood control. It's also important for the generation of hydropower, and this is why we call it the multi-purpose Pualugu Dam. And if you see the sort of damage the release of the water from the Bagri Dam does annually to our people, their homes, their crops, their animals, it's heart-wrenching. And the idea that we are looking at, a dam which would span large areas of the northeast and upper east regions, bringing in play about 28,000 hectares for irrigation. It tells you that it's a game changer whenever we get this dam done. Of course, the dam, as initially planned, was to cost about $1 billion US, as you rightly said. But we quickly ran into major issues following the COVID pandemic, and so many plans that were there, we couldn't realize, no access to the capital markets and so on. So we're going to have to relook at the funding model for the Pualugu Dam and bring in grant financing as well as private sector financing because of the opportunities that exist for the private sector with all of this agricultural land coming into play and all of that. So I think that is the issue. The issue of the universities in the new regions, I think a statement has already been made on that issue, that every new region should have a tertiary institution, ideally a university, and I think that is something I will support. The issue of what happens when people, how do I feel when people insult me? When you are in politics, it's par for the course in a sense. There's not much you can do. People just, for no reason, but for their own parochial reasons, just will insult you. But as long as it doesn't stop me from doing what I want to do for the people of Ghana, I will not be perturbed. As long as they keep insulting me, I'll keep getting things done for our people. I think that the issue has come, I think, in the area of the creative arts. I think it's a very, very, very important area for our economy. It's one of those areas, frankly, that over the time we have not really invested enough in. But my own view is that the returns to investment in this area are huge, because we have just natural born talent in this country. Talent that cannot be really replicated in many areas, and talent that we can get a lot out of in terms of the economy and so on. So my general view of the creative arts area and tourism is that it's a major growth pool for the economy, an area that we should pay attention to and invest in. If you look at what we've done so far in the area of the creative arts and so on, in the area of governance, we've set up the National Film Authority to evolve the dynamics of sustaining and culturally conscious film industry. We passed the Creative Arts Bill and set up the Creative Arts Agency to develop the creative arts industry. The LI on tourist sites was also passed, and we've completed the draft on the creative arts education policy. In terms of infrastructure, which is usually the tourism and the creative arts tend to go hand in hand. We've completed the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, the upgrading of the Kintampo Falls, the Bunsu Eco Park, the Nzulenzu Village, Salaga Slave Market, Pikworo Slave Camp, Tafe, Atome Monkey Sanctuary, Bonwiri Kente Museum. All of these works have been completed, and we have ongoing projects in the Nationalism Park, Taneboasi Sacred Grove, Gees Park, the Creative Arts School, and Dentura Chechewere Eco Park. These are pieces of infrastructure that we are working on. Of course, in terms of marketing, as was noted earlier, we've instituted the Year of Return, the Beyond the Return, December in Ghana, Ghana Week in DC, Washington DC, and Ghana Week in South Africa. And we are providing support for various agencies. Grants have been given to Menchia Museum, Bisara Bewa, Pan-African Heritage Mission, the Film Support Program for Film Producers, also by the Ghana Tourism Authority. You have the film pitch by the National Film Authority, and the support for several festivals and events, including the Chalawote, Little Havana, Rhythms on the Runway, Westside Festival, and so on. So I think that if you look at some of these things that we've been doing, there's been quite a bit that has been done, and we need to do quite a bit more. I think that one of the areas that I was having a discussion yesterday, I think which has just also been mentioned here, essentially to do with a collection of royalties and how it was brought to my attention yesterday by someone just in a discussion. And I think that is something that we have to, because it looks like the nature, from what I hear, some of our artists have designated people either in the United States or somewhere to do the collection of the royalties and so on. We need to have a better approach and help Camro in this area. I think that we're going to use tax incentives, including the flat tax, to incentivize private sector investments in tourism and the creative arts. We want to implement an e-visa policy for all international visitors to Ghana to make visa acquisition fast, and roll out a visa-free policy for all nationals of African and Caribbean countries visiting Ghana. We'll also establish, in partnership with the private sector, a streaming and digital management platform for Ghanaian content developers in the creative arts industry. And we want to also establish a travel protocol service for the creative community to enable artists, performers, and other creatives honor international performances and shows. We want to do some of these things to really help the creative arts. I think for me it's a growth pool, it's an industry where if we really pay attention to, we can do a whole lot. The OT bridge, again, came up, and I think it's something that is still on the drawing board, and I don't think we need to give up on it. It's a critical bridge across the OT, and so I can see how important it is for all of us, and I would definitely be very interested in the OT bridge. What competitive duties, Togo is not duty-free. Many people are under the misapprehension that Togo is duty-free. Saying that we will benchmark with Togo doesn't mean that you are benchmarking with zero. In fact, Togo charges duties and so on. It's not a duty-free port. The question, as I said, was how will you fund your priorities? What I'm proposing is basically to expand the tax base. You want to expand the tax base by broadening the tax, digitalizing the tax, making the tax rate flat so that compliance is very easy for everyone. So I don't really, and then also reducing the government expenditure by 3% of GDP. I don't really see a funding challenge for our promises. In fact, there's no problem really to fund the promises that we are making because they will be financed. As I said, Palugu, we will want to look at grant and private sector financing, buying state assets. I think that it's something that we should all support. If we have any bill that prevents state officials from buying state assets, I think it's very well in the right direction. The issue about driver's licenses, as I said, we would move the validity to 10 years, but you renew it every 5 years. And we are hoping by moving to the flat duty for the imports, people will find that there's a bit more reasonableness in the duties that are being paid and a little bit more predictability in the duties that are being paid at the ports. Bono has not wronged government. I think there is a sense that Sunyani project started have stalled. I hope we can get that perception off the table in completing ongoing projects. There, I think there was a comment also on the state of the National Theatre. But I think from that comment, there seems to be an issue of maybe renovating the National Theatre, because you're saying that it should be done before the election, which means that maybe it's not a major construction effort, but maybe a renovation. I will get some answers to that particular question. Stephen Zuri was saying that they're saying that I was not a cleaner or a by-day worker or a taxi driver. What haven't they said to everything? Basically, it's just laughable. So we'll leave that alone. It's just, yeah. So then data is expensive. I totally agree with you. Especially as we're trying to build a digital economy. So I've made the point in the manifesto, we've made the point in the manifesto that we need to bring down the cost of data. Thankfully, I think that Starlink is coming in at the end of this month. I'm hoping that some competitiveness will come, but I've also said that in our allocation of spectrum in the future, we need to focus more on inclusion and bringing down the cost of data. So it is something that we are really going to pay attention to in the context of building this digital economy. And this is also why the cost of devices, we're trying to look at bring down the cost of devices like the mobile phones as we build this digital state that we are looking at, because we want to take off the import duties on the mobile phones. Yeah, so that is basically some of what we are trying to do. I think there was a question. I don't remember.
Excellency, there's one question on the Yendi tax system.
Yendi taxes?
Yendi and Tamale, actually. The water system.
Yeah, okay, let me go. Let's go through it. I think there was a question that 8 people died in the 2020 election, and the president, or me, we have not commented on it. I'm not quite sure whether the president has commented or not. But any time we lose a life in any circumstance, it doesn't have to be an election. I think it's really a very sad event when you talk about loss of life for anybody. And so I think that it's very, very a sad occurrence if for people who died during the election, maybe out of conflict or something. So it is something that I hope the authorities, law enforcement authorities, have dealt with or are dealing with. I'm not quite familiar with the full current status of that particular situation, but the people who are responsible should be brought to book to deal with this issue. The issue also, the question was also that should I apologize for not being a good economic manager? It's very interesting, you know, because when you look at the work that we have done, let me go through some of it. For the first time in our history, first time since independence, we have a national ID system. For the first time. For the first time in our history, we've championed national ID at birth for all children at birth, together with their birth certificates. Never happened in our history. For the first time in our history, with the Ghana card, you don't need a guarantor to get a student loan. The first time in our history, Ghana has a comprehensive address system. We've struggled with this for 60 years. 60 years. It's only under our government and with my initiative that we have a comprehensive digital address system. For the first time in our history, you have 100% access to financial inclusion in Ghana. For the first time in our history. For the first time in our history, we have drones delivering medical supplies to 2,694 facilities and saving lives. 540,000 flights have been made so far to very remote parts of Ghana. Daily, they are going an average of about 100 flights a day from each of the 6 drone centers, saving lives. So many lives have been saved. Women in childbirth, needing blood, people who have been bitten by snakes. We get the report that the drones are saving. And Ghana is the whole world's largest medical drone delivery service. The whole world. The whole world. Our people can sit at home and enroll in national health insurance from home and renew national health insurance that they had so much problems with. Today, people can stay at home and buy electricity credit and pay their children's school fees and other things right on their mobile phone. Today, you have a lot of bureaucracy in the public service delivery space that has really been eliminated. You know, getting through passports, getting a driver's license, clearing goods at the ports, and so on, have become much easier because of digitalization than before. Much, much, much easier. Today, we have an e-pharmacy system, platform in Ghana I went to Ho in 2019, met with the pharmacists and challenged them. I said, let's do an e-pharmacy platform. Let's bring all the pharmacies in Ghana together on one platform. And today we have 2,456 pharmacies that have been brought together on one platform. For the first time in our history. For the first time in our history. So today, if you receive a prescription from a doctor, you can get to the e-pharmacy platform and it will tell you which pharmacy near you has the medicine and how much it costs. This is the first country in the whole of Africa to have an e-pharmacy platform, and it is Ghana, the whole of Africa, to have an e-pharmacy platform, and it is Ghana. Today we have put together Ghana.gov platform where we have onboarded over 1,000 MMDAs. But we are left with less than 20 MMDAs to complete the whole Ghana.gov. So whenever you want to interact with government, you go to Ghana.gov and you either apply for the service or pay for the service or whatever. Today, when we came in, only 4% of adult Ghanaians had a tax identification number. Today it's 85%, and that is a major, the really major accomplishment that we are doing. Today, what we have done for the first time in our history under the e-health program, before you could go to the hospital and they'll tell you your folder is missing. Today, what we have done is to digitalize the medical records and network the hospitals, all teaching hospitals, all regional hospitals, all district hospitals. The patient records have all been digitalized, and those hospitals are networked. So if they refer someone from Wa to Kolebu, they don't need to come with their folder. All they need is their ID number. It will be put in the computer in Kolebu, and all their medical history will appear to the government. And we are the first country in the whole of Africa to do this, and one of the few in the world, because I've been looking at the networking of hospitals across the world in this manner. We have one of the very few in the world to do this, one of the very, very few. Today, sickle cell patients are able to get hydroxyurea on the NHIS. Today, childhood cancer is covered on the NHIS. Today, we have free kidney dialysis for over 60 patients and under 18 patients. Today, we have the National Rental Assistance Scheme for the first time in our history to deal with this problem of rent advance. And as I said, it's working very, very well, and we will do it. Today, for the first time in our history, we have the Zongo Development Fund, over 200 projects, and we are moving forward with that. Today, for the first time in our history, we've implemented a gold purchase program at the Bank of Ghana. We've also brought in gold for oil program, which is going to be a major thing for our economy going forward. And today, one of the things that we have done, which will be hopefully outdooring before the end of this year, is to bring in a local Uber-like app for our local taxis. Taxis having major problems because they are being outcompeted by Uber. We have done an app for them, and they will soon be able to operate like the way the Uber or Yango or Bolt is operating. So that when we take a taxi, we don't have to be taking the money abroad. We can keep the money in Ghana. And that work has been virtually completed, and we will outdoor it very, very soon. So when you look at how we are changing Ghana, and you look at the performance of the economy before we came into office. We are doing much better across virtually every sector than the man who wants to come back. Every sector. The one who wants to come back, right? So I am very proud of my record. Very, very proud of it. So the issue for GIBA was free-to-air model and the financial sustainability of it. I think that one of the things which as you spoke, I thought was very, very important for us and hopefully we may have to have a meeting to get a better, fuller understanding. But I believe that the flat tax system that we are coming up with for many businesses will help, because you were talking about the tax regime not being media friendly. I think that generally the tax regime has not been business friendly. And this is why I want a complete overhaul of the tax regime. I want a business and citizen friendly tax regime. And this is where we're going. And I believe that once we implement the tax reforms that we are proposing, we will broaden the tax base and we'll make it very simple. When I was thinking about this, I asked myself the question, which country has the best tax regime in the world? The research came up with Estonia. Estonia has been #1 in tax regime, business friendliness for the last 10 years in a row. That has been Estonia. So I decided to take a team, GRE and a few others, and we went to Estonia. We met with all their key players, President, Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, the equivalent of GRE, and we went through their system. Of course, it was very clear that the simplicity of that system, friendliness of that system. No, you don't really need to appoint an accountant to tell you how much you owe. It's just a flat tax. I was very persuaded that we will have a very, very good system with a flat tax system in Ghana. And this is where I wanted. So it's just like you pay your tithe in church. Everyone knows exactly how much they have to pay. It's that situation. And that is why I want us to start on a clean slate. And that is why we are going to introduce a tax amnesty for businesses and individuals so that we all start on a clean slate in this area. I am very, very thankful for this opportunity. I am running for president because I believe I can really help transform this country. I believe that we are not at our potential. I believe it's really possible to really move this country in leaps and bounds. I believe we are limited in our mindsets. We are not believing that it is possible. I want to take Ghana on this journey of possibilities. I want us to overtake many of these countries. I want to create jobs for our people. I want to take care of the vulnerable. I want to educate our people and make sure that we build an economy, a world-class digital economy, which is based on systems and data, that it wouldn't depend. When your economy is based on systems and data, it doesn't depend on who you know. Because when it comes to who you know, then only a few benefit. But we want to move more towards a disciplined society, and systems bring discipline, more discipline as a society. Because in the advanced countries, things work. People are disciplined because the systems are there to check you. Systems check you. And so I believe that we should put in place the systems, and we will get a more disciplined society and a more vibrant society, a prosperous society, a job-creating society. That's why I want you to help me to become president of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Gen Zs will say, he's very mindful, cutesy, and very demure. Please put your hands together again for the leader and the flavor of the Democratic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Bold solution for the field.
Thank you, thank you. So at this juncture, please, let's continue putting our hands together for the Vice President as he sits down. Very, very mindful, very cutesy, and very demure. His Excellency Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, 4 hours of grilling questions, 4 hours of answering one of the toughest questions that any sitting vice president has ever been subjected to. And you all agree that never in our recent time have we ever seen any presidential candidate subjected to such grilling questions. Please put your hands together again for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Let me quickly say that it's unfortunate we are unable to take every single question for obvious reasons. Over 200 people in this room. Please, we apologize. Just as when you open your phone lines on your radio shows and your TV shows, you are unable to take every call. Mr. Jantua, forgive me because you are unable to pick all your calls on your morning show. Forgive me. Taku, forgive me. There are going to be a lot more of such engagement. Annie, forgive us. And we'll engage more so we can ask a lot more questions. For those of us who couldn't get a registration done before getting into the auditorium, please show your invitation at the registration desk and complete the process. We gave each of us copies of the abridged version of the manifesto. Please, let's go through this manifesto and let's continue the conversation from tomorrow. God bless us all. I started the program with the prayer, and I'll say the closing prayer as well. Father, Lord, we thank you for such an intriguing engagement. We thank you for guiding us through the process for over 4 hours. We pray that as we get back to our homes, you join us on this journey and help us to get back home safely. This and many more we pray for in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you and have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen.